Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Pulp Crazy. I'm your host, Jason Aiken. In this week's episode, I will be discussing a short story by Philip Jose Farmer that I have recently finished reading. The story is called Savage Shadow, and as you can guess from the title, it fits into the body of work known as his Pulp period. It was originally published in 1977 in the pages of Weird Heroes number 8, a new Pulp series of books that was put together by Byron Preiss Visual Productions and published by Pyramid, Jove, HBJ. It was later reprinted in Pearls From Peoria in 2006, a hardcover collection of Farmer's writing, edited by Paul Spiteri and published by Subterranean Press. In addition to Savage Shadow, an article written by Farmer titled The Grant-Robeson Papers is included in both books and serves as a foreword to Savage Shadow. Savage Shadow was to be the first in a series of stories that Farmer dubbed the Grant-Robeson Papers. To boil it down to the most basic premise, in Savage Shadow, Farmer writes under the name Maxwell Grant. Maxwell Grant was the street and Smith house name Walter Gibson and others used when writing the Shadow pulps. The star of Savage Shadow is an aspiring young pulp writer named Kenneth Robeson. Kenneth Robeson is the street and Smith house name Lester Dent and others wrote under when writing the Doc Savage pulps. Be sure to watch the videocast or look at the show notes for a little visual aid cheat sheet that I made, just to give you a little more clarification on the names being used. Farmer sets up this fun premise in the foreword with some backstory, which I will summarize. The Grant-Robeson Papers came into existence in 1936 when a wealthy fan of pulp fiction paid Maxwell Grant and Kenneth Robeson a large sum of money to write unique fiction to be shared just between the three of them. This wealthy fan was previously a crime fighter who blazed the way for fictional heroes like the Shadow, Doc Savage, and the Spider. The two writers agreed to write the stories and decided to make each other the stars of their tales. Kenneth Robeson would write about Maxwell Grant and vice versa. The two authors wrote a total of 16 stories. Some were short stories, some were novelettes. The first 4 stories were set in the 1930s, while the later stories were transferred into the time period of the 1970s at the request of the collector, who was also a science fiction fan. The two authors came up with a way for their characters to time travel to the future. The two would write in each other's various styles at the request of the client, or they even came up with new styles while writing these tales, which the client didn't seem to mind. The stories were written in the 1930s and were discovered by the client's heir in 1977. The papers were in a safe on Riverside Drive in Manhattan. An interesting thing about the provided backstory is the names of the client and his heir are encoded at the request of the heir. The client's name is shown as J star 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 D star star star. He is said to be a wealthy manufacturer of safes. Thanks to Winscott Eckert and Christopher Paul Carey, I discovered the client's name can be decoded to the name Jimmy Dale, also known as the Gray Seal. Browsing Jimmy Dale's Wikipedia page, his backstory does indeed match the backstory of the client. Jimmy Dale was an adventurous playboy who cracked safes as the Gray Seal for fun, but never actually stole anything. He later became a crime fighter after being blackmailed by a woman whose safe he cracked. He was created by Frank L. Packard, and his adventures appeared in a pulp magazine called Pearls, and were later collected into novels. He would also star in a movie serial. Jimmy Dale's heir is his cousin, whose name is shown as L star 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 C star 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 star. Evidently, his cousin's name is Lamont Cranston, one of the secret identities the Shadow uses, because that fits with the code. I believe Farmer is presenting that Jimmy Dale and Lamont Cranston, the real Lamont Cranston, not Ken Allard, are related to each other. Even though Farmer is making connections here to the adventures of the Gray Seal, as well as the Shadow in the Foreword, I don't think it necessarily means this takes place in his Wold Newton universe. For one, the basis of Doc Savage in the Wold Newton universe is James Clark Wildman Jr., as described in Doc Savage, His Apocalyptic Life, by Philip Jose Farmer, not the adventures of Kenneth Robeson. Perhaps someone could write a creative mythography article that attempts to merge the universe Kenneth Robeson, Maxwell Grant, and Jimmy Dale inhabit with the Wold Newton universe proper, but it would take some massaging. Now, I could see Jimmy Dale fitting into the Wold Newton universe as a cousin of Ken Allard, though. Nothing I've read in the Wold Newton universe would contradict this as far as I can recall. Also, it should be noted that we are dealing with two universes as far as Savage Shadow and the Grant-Robeson Papers are concerned. There is a universe inhabited by Robeson, Grant, and Dale, as described in the Foreword, as well as the universe where Savage Shadow and the rest of the Grant-Robeson Papers takes place. This is kind of cool because Philip Jose Farmer created a fictional universe as well as another fictional universe for his characters to write about. It seems Farmer had a lot of fun during his period of writing about pulp characters, and I bet Savage Shadow was no exception. Savage Shadow, written by Maxwell Grant itself, is a lot of fun as a standalone story. It's set in December 1932 and features Kenneth Robeson as a young pulp writer, struggling to come up with a winning idea he can sell to Street and Smith when he meets one of the big shots in 3 days. He travels to the observation deck on the 86th floor of the Empire State Building for some inspiration and becomes involved with a plot straight out of the pulps. He sees a young lady named Patricia Burke and her father being harassed by some thugs and chooses to intervene. It turns out Patricia's father was a scientist who lost his mind and recently escaped from a mental institution. He is seen on the observation deck yelling at his own shadow. After Robeson's failed attempt to stop the thugs from taking her father, Patricia and he talk a bit, and she shares with him her suspicions about the mental institution and its staff. She asks Robeson to leave the city with her so they can investigate the facility and staff firsthand, and even offers to pay his way. Robeson, being extremely attracted to the full-chested Patricia and thinking he might get some ideas for a story, agrees to go with her. During the course of their investigation, they meet an interesting cast of characters who should feel more than familiar to fans of Doc Savage and the Avenger. Savage Shadow has a great deal of action and mystery, but there is also a good bit of humor too, especially when they encounter the locals who inhabit the mental institution and the small town surrounding it. It's really a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend it to fans of Doc Savage, The Shadow, The Avenger, and of course, Philip Jose Farmer. There are more than a few references Pulp fans will get. It should be noted, Paul Ernst wrote The Avenger under the house name of Kenneth Robeson as well, which is why there is also some Avenger references included in Savage Shadow. I would be interested to see if Farmer wrote or mapped out any further installments of the Grant-Robeson Papers. In my eyes, these tales would be a must-read. This story is no longer in print, but used editions of Weird Heroes Volume 8 and Pearls from Peoria are available for extremely low prices from Amazon sellers. I would personally recommend picking up Pearls from Peoria, though, due to the abundance of rare pulp-related material written by Farmer contained within, such as writing Doc's biography, Doc Savage and the Cult of the Blue God, which is a proposed treatment for a sequel to the Doc Savage film, and The Monster on Hold, an unfinished novel starring Doc Caliban from A Feast Unknown and The Mad Goblin. Both take place in the Empire of the Nine universe, an alternate universe to the Wool Newton universe. The Monster on Hold was to be the follow-up to A Feast Unknown, The Mad Goblin, and Lord of the Trees in that universe. Pearls from Peoria also contains extensive Tarzan and Edgar Rice Burroughs related material written by Farmer. I found the genealogical article tracing Edgar Rice Burroughs' lineage back to the Norse god Odin extremely fascinating myself. So if you're a pulp fan, Pearls from Peoria is the collection to get, especially at the low prices being offered on Amazon. And that's just scratching the surface with the pulp-related material in Pearls from Peoria. There are plenty of other articles. It's a massive 773-page tome of hard-to-find fiction by Farmer in just one place. There's also some great interior illustrations by Charles Berlin, Keith Howell, Jason Robert Bell, and Mario Zecca. Although this particular image doesn't appear in Pearls from Peoria, the image of Farmer and Doc that I used on this episode's title card was illustrated by Charles Berlin. I'll be sure to link to a table of contents page as well as to the Amazon stores where you can buy Weird Heroes Volume 8 and Pearls from Peoria. That's it for this week's episode. Pulp Crazy is located at pulpcrazy.com. I'm at Pulp Crazy on Twitter and facebook.com/pulpcrazy. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/pulpcast. Please like, subscribe, and follow, and provide me with some feedback on how you are enjoying the show, or if you have any suggestions for me. You can also email me at pulpcrazy@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.